This is David for Big Bits, and in this video we're going to take a look at Bitcoin and how the S&P are kind of doing right now and how that kind of compares to one another. We'll go over a little bit of crypto news, just some general updates here, as it's been a while since I've talked about some TA as well as some of the updated news in cryptocurrency. I want to keep up to date on these things here on the channel. So first of all, I wanted to look at the Bitcoin chart because I had drew some squigglies on my chart not too long ago to kind of give you my dream scenario for what the price would do leading up to a potential halving pump. And so far they've been pretty decent other than the price going up today. If it had went down today, I'd pretty much been spot on, other than a little aggressive on the MACD. But other than that, I think things are looking pretty good right now, although on the daily things are pretty neutral, and I can see a scenario where price just kind of hovers around this area all the way into the halving. But of course that's always subject to change, because when your indicators get in the middle, and there's like the three that I watch mostly here for this stuff: stock, the smooth RSI, and the stochastic RSI. When those three get in the middle, sometimes they can stay there for a little while when they've kind of averaged out there. The same goes for the MACD. It's also kind of rounding out right around zero, which means that the moving averages are getting really tight on it. So this is probably going to be priming for a huge breakout one way or the other eventually. I can't really say when that's going to be, but we're probably going to move around in a range for a little while. That's my opinion here. This is certainly not financial advice. I have no idea what it's doing. I'm telling you that. I usually like to buy after extended periods on these indicators in low values, and usually on double dips. So when they come down into these oversold areas twice, that's when I like to buy. So really, I'm not really looking at anything right now. I'm just kind of hopeful because I am long-term long on Bitcoin. But let's switch this and compare it to the S&P now. Make sure you can actually see me. And there's a couple of interesting things. Let me bring these up and zoom in just a little bit. So a couple of interesting things to note on Bitcoin is that, of course, when it broke down here, it climbed all the way back up to its 50-day moving average, the green line, got rejected, and then it eventually broke it, and it appears to have tested it as support now. So I do believe there is a chance we can come all the way back up to the 100 or the 200 if this kind of holds for the rest of the day. And as I mentioned, things could just kind of remain neutral in a range for a while, but that's what we're looking at here, is that the price has bounced today off the 50-period moving average, whereas with the S&P, the 50 moving average might be serving as resistance now. So it's interesting to see, because this could be an opportunity for Bitcoin to become uncorrelated once again, because a lot of people have been saying they've been incredibly correlated, and they have, but that's kind of due to the coronavirus and the effects it's had on all the markets. But maybe things are changing, because it appears that Bitcoin has found support on the 50-day moving average, and the S&P might be looking at resistance on its 50-day moving average after breaking down out of its ascending wedge. So those are the things I'm looking at here. I'm certainly not too optimistic on the S&P. This is pretty much the level I was targeting, anywhere from its 50 to its 100 for my potential shorts, because first of all, you're gonna have some resistance in this area. Second of all, this is your first real retest of these moving averages since then. So even if it comes back up to here, I'm pretty confident I would like to continue to short, because I don't see the major impacts in the market being turned around too quickly, because they're absolutely historic. So I can't see these things changing anytime soon, so I can't really be bullish on stocks or anything. Now Bitcoin, I could be, because of course it's supply model. So it's interesting to see, and that's kind of the key takeaway here in the first part of the video, is that Bitcoin is bouncing, and that may be off of support, whereas the S&P could potentially be retesting that breakout and potentially having its 50-day serve as resistance going forward. So that's pretty much all I really want to talk about with prices right now. There's really not a whole lot interesting on the TA other than this breakdown on that ascending wedge and the differences, well, the comparisons between the two with a potential correlation change. Those are really the only things I wanted to point out about the TA particularly right now. I did want to just go over a couple of things of news that I thought were pretty interesting. Bloomberg is saying that the Bitcoin is setting up for a 2017-like bull run, and I don't really tend to read a lot into these particular articles because it's just people who have experienced trading and doing this stuff quite often forming their own opinions and telling you that. So you're probably just as well off to form your own opinion if you have any experience doing it. And if you don't, then for me, what I did was I decided to learn because I don't trust these people. I don't know who these people are. And when you're trading, there's always somebody else on the other side of the trade. So if somebody's telling you to buy, then why are they telling you to buy? Do they want to sell? So there's a bit of conspiracy to it because you're all competing together against one another. So you're best usually to think for yourself. Now the Ponzi's are back in action. This cosmic cryptocurrency Ponzi in China took $11 million in 3 weeks, and it seems like there's a lot of these coming from China recently, and I've talked about a few of them recently, but you really have to be careful if you're looking at getting into any sort of cryptocurrency, especially these ones that are from China or other countries. Usually the ones that are coming from America are trying to do the right thing. So if you can see that they're from America, they probably need to be doing the right thing, first of all, because they face a lot more regulations than a lot of other places. But for the most part, they're easier to understand. And if you're looking to China for your cryptocurrencies and trying to get into like an ICO or an IEO, you're better off actually understanding the language, first of all. But it just seems like more of these scams seem to come from China and those sorts of countries than they do anywhere else. And one thing I'm excited to see, and particularly for my channel here, is that crypto gaming seems to be exploding during these coronavirus measures. And this is particularly good for me because I am covering Light Night. I've done a lot of videos about them, and I think their game is going to be the biggest crypto game by far. And I'm really kind of betting on that because honestly, it's probably the best idea I've seen, and it probably has the most partners and real chances of being adopted anywhere in actual gaming. So I'm excited to see what they can do, and it's nice to see that gaming and crypto is picking up in general because it seems to be a really good combination in my opinion. And this is just somebody else saying that they think that cryptocurrency may end up being the next reserve currency. And when you look at the markets right now, you can kind of see why that might be something they would say, because the monetary models on them basically have it to where they inflate to the point that they're pretty much worthless. Whereas with cryptocurrencies, depending on which one you're working with, such as Bitcoin, right now it's only inflating at a small percentage, where in the future it won't inflate at all, and in fact will be capped and will never have any new ones made. So it's a completely different model, and if you want to hold your money in some sort of reserve and have it safe, you would want it not to have the risk of being deflated in value because more of it's being made somewhere else. And I think that cryptocurrency is going to serve that purpose in the future. It may already be doing that for a lot of people, but it's probably going to be a little bit more widespread here in the next few years, in my opinion. And this is just regulatory news. I'm going to be going over some of this a little bit more. But basically, something that I've wanted to cover for a little while is Libra has made some changes to their white paper, and that's because they are trying to appease regulators so that they can continue on with the project. Essentially, the way they had came up with the project and how they decided to handle their basket of funds that they would get for the people buying into their cryptocurrency and holding it, even though it was supposed to be a stable coin with a one-to-one value to the US dollar. It was actually backed by all kinds of different objects, different items. There would be stable coins, there would be like investments, things like this. I can't remember the exact makeup of what they were doing, but it was a basket of securities. It wasn't just they took your money and put it in the bank, and when you wanted to cash out your Libra, they would take your money back out of the bank. It wasn't like that. So they're kind of changing things to appease these people, to make it a little bit more likely that they're actually going to come out. And this is actually really huge, because if they do, this is probably going to be the biggest cryptocurrency immediately as soon as it is allowed to be released. And that is unless, of course, you consider China's CBDC to be a cryptocurrency, which many people may or may not. But there are some major changes in Libra. I do want to do a video specifically about Libra to discuss those changes, because they are, well, some of them are quite large and possibly a little bit concerning. But that is all for this video. I'm just going to cut it off here. Thank you all, and have a nice night.